Hey, David T.S. Wood here, and welcome to my Extra Mile. Our comment winner is George S. And George said, thank you so much for the shows. He says, it's so exciting. I get to listen to some shows over and over again. And each time he says, I learn something new. Thank you so much. Thanks, George. Our show today is really interesting because if you'd met this lady when I met her originally, I mean, you would just think, oh my gosh, she had the world by the tail, young, beautiful, vibrant, powerful, positive. Her income was growing year after year, and last year came along and kicked her in the butt. And this is such an authentic and transparent story, but really how she sort of navigated going from a life that was really moving in this direction to really having to face adversity in a new way and discovering things about herself and strategies to help her navigate the adversity and really turn the curve. And I believe, whether it's in relationships or in her financial realm or in her primary relationship with her lover, who's amazing, by the way, and just the discoveries and who she's become because of the adversity. So enjoy the story with my friend and this incredible lady, the most beautiful Mara Pomana. Thank you so much. Enjoy. We'll definitely see you on the other side. I'm always excited to talk to someone I really love, and you, of course, you're one of those people. And I think of the journey we're going to go on today, because we just had a quick chat, and everyone who knows about this show knows that for me, it's always about the conversation. We never really know where we're going to go. But I did ask you about, what's been going on, and when I think about you, Mara, I think about this kind of light and this vibrancy and this, magnetism and charisma and this passion. And yet you had a year that really kicked your ass and really tested you. But let's go back before we get into the year that was, where you really had to learn some lessons. Let's go back into the fact that, you grew up in Romania. And I remember one of the only lives, I don't watch many lives, but I watched you do a live with your grandmother. So I was in your grandmother's kitchen as she was cooking and you were doing a live. And I had this deep sense, because I travel so much, and I had this deep sense that I was back home with you. But what was it like growing up in Romania? Talk about the culture and that sort of vibe, where the root of your vibrancy came from. I'm guessing it's your roots, right?
Yeah. And I do remember that live, and I do remember that you were sort of around the area too, but the car you had rented from Hungary or
they wouldn't let me. Yeah, I was in
Bulgaria. It wouldn't let you drive to Romania. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I was in Budapest, and then we went to Slovakia, Slovenia. We went over to Vienna. We went, and we were just driving about and said, yeah, but they apparently, I don't know what they do in your country with rental cars, but you're not allowed to cross the border.
It must be history, okay? Because in Europe, everyone is so attached to what happened 500 years ago. And so Hungarians and Romanians, apparently we stole Transylvania. So so that's the little thing there, I'm guessing. But yeah, man, it's so funny because I realized the other year, it's been literally the first 15 years of my life I've lived in Romania. And then now the second 15 years of my life I've lived a little bit in New Zealand and in Australia. But like growing up, yes, you grab a lot of the values and everything that from your childhood and when you grow up, but really from 15 to now like 31, that's when I really formed my personality and thoughts and more of my values and everything else. And so it's so crazy to think that it almost feels like another lifetime.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up and thinking, one day I'm going to live. I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure I manifested this, but I'm going to speak English in an English-speaking country. I didn't know where it was going to be. I thought it might be America because you watch the movies and stuff. But I knew I was gonna speak English one day, and so my mom put me into like extra English lessons outside of school. because you can learn at school a little bit like words out of a language, but not to the point where I can speak like this. So
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a week, I would go and do extra English lessons, like one-on-one. It used to be so expensive. It's almost like in today's world, you'd say like $70 an hour, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
something. Yeah. So I always say, yes, I'm an only child, but my parents spoiled me with more schooling, not with, you know, clothes and shoes and stuff like that. So I'm very grateful for my folks.
Give people, those people who haven't traveled a lot, but just give me a description of your grandmother in your home language, in Romanian, just so someone can listen to you speaking your home tongue, and just let's hear it.
Oh, in Romanian. Oh,
Yeah.
and describe my
Just
grandma.
describe your grandmother to
Well,
us.
really, my grandparents. Uh, oh, wow. Well, îmi iubesc bunicii foarte mult și m-au învățat foarte multe despre viață, despre cum să gătesc, și mi-e foarte dor de ei pentru că nu i-am mai văzut de aproape 2 ani.
Mm-hmm. I find it fascinating. If someone was to watch that back 3 or 4 times, they're going to get to, I believe, if they really listen and they watch your eyes and they watch your heart, they'll tell exactly what you said, or the sense of how much you love her, the influence she has on you, the spirit that she has, whether you speak the language or not. So and by the way, I loved her. I loved watching her, and it was just like, I just wanted to go in there and give her a big kiss and hold on to her.
She was really trying. Hello, everybody. Like she was trying.
Talk about this then. So you grew up in predominantly from 15 on. You grew up in New Zealand and Australia. With that transition, how was that for you? Was it harder? Was it easier? What was it like to transition into a new culture? Do you remember? Because 15 is the hard age for a girl. There's a lot going on, right?
I do remember. It's so funny how my brain has just stored some real like intense moments of, I mean, I remember the night before leaving, so everything was packed up, and my dad had already left because he went there to sort of set things up in New Zealand and started working, and so my mom and myself went like a month later, but you know, had to close everything up in Romania. And I remember going with some friends up on a hill where we have this active volcano. It kind of looks like the Hollywood Hill, but it says the name of our, you know, hometown, which is Deva, D-E-V-A, which I know in Hindi means God, which is like, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, I'm from Deva. So
yes, you are.
Yeah, I get that. And I remember vividly going, oh my goodness, like this is my last night here, and I'm about to, you know, I was so excited because I thought I'm going to this, you know, place is gonna have skyscrapers and like the city like I've seen in the movies. And because the hometown I was from, it was like 70,000 people, which is not that small, but it's also not big. There was no tall buildings, you know, taller than 10 levels, like that's an apartment building. So I remember that. And then I remember arriving in New Zealand, and I didn't know this, but we were 45 minutes outside of town in a small space called Kumu, surrounded by sheep and cows, and the next neighbor 2 kilometers away. So and I was a city girl in that sense, where there would be 100 kids outside of my apartment block that I would chat with, play with, walk to school with, that sort of thing. So the initial, it was like a bit of a shock, but I don't know if it was like the only child in me. I always had this, like, I felt this huge responsibility to make sure that make my mom and dad proud. And so I took it upon me to not complain about anything, and I knew that all I had to do was go to school, get good grades, be a good girl. And I don't even know how I did it, but I never got upset or depressed or anything like that, because it was a bit of a shock. Taking a school bus for 20 minutes, you know, all of a sudden I'm like so insecure about my accent because I do sound different. And it took a while. I remember 6 months into living in New Zealand, the first time I dreamt in English, and I realized I don't have to think anymore. before I speak. Like I don't have to translate it in my head first. I could just not. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
That is. And then, you know, as you sort of grew up there, I want to get to, because of really what you learned last year, but I want to go to when I met you. So here you are, you grew up in the country, you, as an only child, you were quite mature, but you took on this new culture and you sort of developed into, here's what's interesting for me, because I grew up in England, well, around the world, but I'm English. But now, of course, I'm Canadian. And when I realized I was Canadian, really Canadian, was when the Olympics were on in London. And I watched I didn't watch all the Olympics, but I watched the Olympics and I never once cheered for a British person. I cheered for Canadians. I thought, oh my God, I'm Canadian. But do you feel like an Aussie or do you feel like a Romanian or what do you feel?
Yeah. I feel very Australian. I mean, I remember when we got our citizenship and we all got the Aussie, the cowboy hats on with the little corks, you know, for the flies, even though we were inside of a room. But we had some friends of some of our Australian friends come with us at that ceremony. And when we got up there, I got so emotional and our friends were like, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. And we were like, Mom, Dad, and I, we were like, OMG, like this is for real. And when we applied for that passport, look, I'm getting emotional. I literally felt like I had the ticket to the world because a few years back, I actually tried to go and visit in America with even though I had a permanent residency in Australia, I had my Romanian passport and I was denied. Yeah. And it was like the first moment I was like, oh my God, I could travel anywhere. And I'm a Saggy, okay? Like, for years, right, my mid-20s was all travel because I need to get this out of my system. I want to see the world. And so it just meant so much. And that's when I think it kind of, about 4 years or 5 years living in Australia, it kind of really kicked in. But yeah, I love the culture here. I love how multicultural it is. I love how open people are and accepting.
Relaxed, right? I mean,
friendly.
A relaxedness there, right?
And really chill, unlike Europe where there's other social pressures of how many degrees do you have? Are you married yet? You know, all sorts of things of like how you look.
More status, right?
Yeah, how you look and what car you're driving is more important than other things, whereas you come to Australia and someone's getting off a yacht in their thongs, ripped t-shirt and shorts and you wouldn't think, but they're probably a billionaire or whatever. Like you wouldn't even you wouldn't find that in Romania. It's like it's not like that. Or
it's interesting because I had a very similar experience because I didn't get my I've been in Canada for years now, and I remember I think I was 19 years before I applied for my Canadian citizenship. And I remember I didn't take it very seriously. I had to do this exam and it was all about politics, so, you know, which I'm not interested in. But when I went to this little hall, there was maybe, I don't know, 80 to 100 people, but they were all from different parts of the world, you know, and a lot of from war-torn countries. And I sat there in this room, and then the police officer or the justice of the peace got up and started to talk about, you know, us becoming Canadians. And I started to cry. And I suddenly realized that I had this little book, this little passport that gave me access to the world. I mean, not that the British passport was different, but it was this now belonging to a country that I was in love with. But then looking at these people that, you know, this was like a new beginning for them that I had taken for granted. I had never looked at how lucky I was to be in that place. And I was just so emotional about this thing that I take for granted. But when I met you, you were a young network marketer. So you'd sort of got into network marketing. And again, I don't want to mention the company you're with too much because I know there's a lot of people from different companies, but
of course.
I you know, I love the company you're with. And I mean, but the question is, what drew you to network marketing? What drew you into this as a young woman? And again, remember, you know, you're in a culture in a country where, you know, being a network marketer wasn't totally acceptable for, you know, for a career path, especially from parents normally from a European country. It's like, you know, get a good career, get a good degree. And here you are pursuing travel and adventure and building this kind of side hustle business. How did that all come about?
So that's so cool. And I think when we met, I was 24. So I started my network marketing adventure when I was 23. So just before turning 24. And it was very random. It literally started with me attending a party where I won 10 personal training session with someone who then said to me, hey, come to this thing. And that happened to be an event where there were a lot of, which is kind of weird, it was weird at the time, but it was a lot of young people, and they were talking about their vision, and they were talking about helping their parents, helping them pay for, retire their parents. And I think that to me was like ding, 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 because child of an immigrant family that's sacrificed everything to give me a better future. I heard that and I was like, well, I'm not doing this with my admin job right now. So background to that, I had finished my degree in broadcasting and communications, and I was very passionate to what my tutors had told me, be the voice of the people, only to find that once I started doing my work experience at a local television in Perth in WA, I really had no freedom to speak about anything that I cared about. It was literally, I was just being told, you're off to do these 2 stories. It'll be like current affairs stories. Then on Friday night, we would have like this sort of lifestyle show. So I did that for a while, didn't get paid. So I had to ask my mom and dad money to drive my car to do interviews for a local, that weren't even, I think a year in, I'm like, could you cover at least my petrol? So I ended up, I'm like, this is not working out for me. I'm using all of my savings. Like and then I started becoming really insecure about my accent as well, because I thought, man, like maybe the only television that would employ me is like SBS, where they have other people with accents. So I, often they would tell me, Mara, what's your articulation? And I don't know if you've ever turned the news channel here in Australia, but it just kind of sounds like all reporters sound the same. And it's just this like nasal, I couldn't do it, right? I have an accent. I can't do it. So I was like, I think this is it. So I started an admin job. I worked in admin, looking at 2 screens with Excel sheets, and my eyes would go like this. So when I attended that party, I was like a couple of months into this job, and I kind of like had it, because I was so used to moving around, getting dressed up, going and talking to people, being really social, and all of a sudden I'm 8 hours in this chair looking at Excel sheets, and I'm thinking like, wait, all of this, my parents sacrificed, to come here, me going to university and having to pay upfront every semester because I couldn't even get a loan, because I wasn't a citizen when I was going to uni. So it was a lot of sacrifice for my parents and myself. And so I thought, man, and I ended up here. So when I attended that event and I saw these young people that haven't made it yet, but they were telling me where they were going, and they were like, join my arm to go, I was like, something inside of me just went, okay, you've got to listen to this. So when I went back to my mom and dad and said, I'm doing this, they were like, I don't think so. So, and I'm glad that I was so lit up, that I said, give me 3 months. Give me 3 months to show you that I can do something with it. And in 3 months, I mean, I wasn't really able to do much, but it was a little bit of money coming in to actually show this is real. This is an email, like it's real, it's a real thing. And there's a business and there's like systems, like it's like real things. So once I started doing really well, then they were 100% with me. I think they even attended an event that you ran at one point, and they were so proud. They just, So.
Well, because you embraced the profession. And I just remember, again, as you started to learn, I mean, you were studying, you were doing a lot of personal development, you were reading a lot, you were hanging around these young, positive, vibrant people, you were doing it in your own way. I remember meetings on the beach and people not wearing shoes, and there was just this kind of like this design of this, this is what young people want to do. And then I remember, I think I was at an event where you got your first 6-figure income, like you made $100,000 in a year. I don't know how long were you in it before you got to that sort of $100,000 a year?
Yeah, I think it was the 8 month. Was it 8 months or a year in that I hit the six figures. And then obviously the year after I would have received, I think at the time we had checks. We don't do that anymore, but yeah, that was crazy. That, and by this time I'm 25 and I'm earning more money than any person in my whole entire family. So,
But you were also wanting to travel and see the world. And so you were kind of combining and
yeah,
not selling, but you were selling a little bit the lifestyle of a young, beautiful, intelligent woman who has chosen this path and living fully. And really, I think you were showing people that there was a different way.
yeah,
And it was a better way, but it was also, it was hard, but you know, I think your personality was so magnetic as well. You were naturally attracting people.
yeah.
And this is where,
I
by the way,
initially,
I just want to say for people listening, we're going to get to the point where, you know, Mara goes like, so we're getting to this last year shit was because this is where, you know, suddenly you have to face some demons and you have to find out about the deeper Mara, because you know, you were naturally, and I say naturally, I mean, you worked hard, but you played hard. And I mean, when we meet, I mean, it was just like, I always felt like we were a party somewhere, right?
yeah,
Had that vibrancy to it. But so talk a little bit just for those people who maybe haven't stepped over, because some people may want to follow you into this, but just the idea of a side hustle business into network marketing, especially, what have you learned? Or what's it given you as a woman, as a person, as a human being? When you look at the journey you've had, and again, let's take last year out of it because I want to get to that independently.
yeah.
But what had it given you? What was the things that changed in you? What grew in you? What were you forced to do? And you went from the admin screen of looking and getting cross-eyed, and you went from the, you know, television broadcasting where you were told what to say and how to look good and play a role. But here you are now living in a world where you're having to design your own life. What was that all like?
I mean, initially, and I have to remind myself every time when I speak to people as well and tell them about it, just remind myself how I was when I first heard about this. And for me, I mean, I was lit up by just the idea that I can design my day, that I can do something in my own time. And even if I work 10, 12 hours a day, at least it's for something that I'm creating for myself that I can then create into a legacy and then will to my children. Like all I could think about always is like everything is creating this foundation and it's for me and my family. Like it wasn't, for the first time, I'm not working for someone else. And so I was lit up. I really led with my energy. I led with that excitement for life. I wasn't really even skilled in systems and how to even take someone from point A to point C, but I had so much energy that I would infuse into people and finding their whys and getting them to come to an event that I almost didn't really even have to do all the little steps that really required me to upskill and upgrade myself, because my energy would just go like, I was literally a people magnet to the point where that was it. Like I almost didn't have to do, I felt like I didn't really have to even learn all these skills, because my thing was like, I was focusing on what I did really best, which was talk to people, meet people, give them hugs, and just infuse so much hope and belief into them that they can do it. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey, and that felt really, really good. And even whilst I was traveling, I'm like, guys, this is possible. Like I'm just, someone from a small town in Romania. Like if I can do this, you can do this. And so that was, the continuous story that was playing in my mind, and I was telling myself as well. And so that's kind of how it felt. And that's sort of, because I want to mention later this energy, because for a while there, I kind of forgot that, you wake up and what you think about and what the story that you're telling yourself, and the story that, you're constantly repeating about your life and what you're doing and who you are and what's possible, and how I was always talking about anything is possible and life is limitless, is really, really important. And it can really set your day up. It can really set your business up. It can really make you into a people magnet, which I really was, and I still am.
Well, yeah, you are. But however, let's get to this point, because I really want to, because you had years of this continual, and I'm not saying that each year was a, quantum growth, but it was continually growing, but you were living on your own terms, and you were playing life in your own way. If you wanted to go and work in Romania and be in your grandmother's kitchen, you could. And because of the way social media is, you were able to impact your team, you're able to grow. But last year you hit a wall, an interesting wall, and I haven't really discussed it with you yet. So I wanted to discuss it on the show.
No, we haven't even talked about it. So
tell me what happened. What was this sort of, what happened? And you, when we use the word, I don't even like using the word depressed, but I mean, like when you got someone who's as vibrant as you are, that sort of comes into a year where it's like almost a suffocating, I'm guessing based on just the short chat we had, but describe it to us. What was the change in you last year?
Well, it started slowly. It was almost like a crescendo, but really it was more like a descendo. It wasn't like, that's not even a word, I'm sure.
No, but it's like, I'm going to use that word. I like it. Descendo.
So it, the business was sort of going well, and then all of a sudden this was kind of slowly happening, just started going, the income started going lower, and not as many people were as lit up, and I believe that for a while there we also had huge momentum within the community, within the company and everything like that. And then for a while, which is normal because any business would go through that. And so now people, and including myself, were realizing that this takes work and skills, and you can't just rely on just me being lit up and you getting that. Like, it actually then requires you to go and do the work. And so for a lot of people now, I think within even my organization, we're realizing that I actually have to work this like anything else. And
About network marketing, not net play, not net,
And that was also a realization for me more than ever, because all of a sudden I had to really go, oh, wow, I actually have to really look at my numbers and my back office and like what's going on, and the leaders I can work with, the people who are still lit up. And so I started doing that, and I felt really good. And then they'll be like, oh wow, I learned how to do this and work Zoom up and do webinars now and invite and Instagram. And so I would always be, and I think we even chatted about this at some point, because I was like, David, you can do this with your Instagram and these hashtags, and it's so cool. And but for some reason it kept going down to the point where I was like, I never thought it would go underneath that line that I kind of set up for myself as my safe, as my comfort zone of like what I had sort of been used to. And so when it went underneath that line that I had sort of set up for myself, then that's when it really kind of started to affect me. And then I went from going, anything is possible, and like, you just you got to be this high vibe person so that you can attract people that you want to work with and run events and all this. I started waking up with fear of not having enough. Do I have enough to pay for this? I can't travel anymore? What's going on? So I would start, and then the whole day would be ruined now, because I started my day with so much angst and fear, and that happening and going on for a few months then became my reality. So I was stuck, and that's why it took a whole year of getting unstuck from just something that I now, like a story that became for me like a huge reality, was so hard to get rid of, to go back into.
Well, did you find that, Mara, that because these things are insidious, they happen so slowly? There's actually a quote by Warren Buffett that I love that reminds me of your story. It says, the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. So you get into this habit, And there just seemed like this small little thing, small little thing, small little thing, small little thing, until without even realizing the chains are so heavy that it's almost impossible to break them. And we see that. And the reason why I love your story and why I wanted to talk about this today was because so many people last year went through, and those habitual thoughts that they're not really aware of have started to layer in, and so many people have got this reality that they not realize they created it, and they really don't have no plan to get out of it. But is that what it felt like? Did it feel like suddenly you woke up and now you're being suffocated by the very thing that you've been doing slowly over time, right?
Yeah, and I was, by this point, I think it was somewhere in the middle, I was working so hard. And so the numbers would show that I've quadrupled everything in my income producing activities. But it was because everything went, like, there were so many people, I guess, that weren't so lit up, and it almost didn't make a difference, because it was almost like building from the bottom up again. It was like that. It was like, I'm building the foundation again, like, 6.5 years in, like, what is going on? So, and I was proud of myself, but then I'll be like, but why isn't it showing? And I think, I'm pretty sure a lot of network marketers go through that. It's so easy in those moments to obviously quit and just go like, nah, F this, like, it's too much work. But, and even just now I'm starting to see it, and it's just, that's how long it's taken. And again, I'm not going to stop, because I do enjoy this work so much, but it just goes to say that it's like so much work that I had to do to now go, oh, wow, I'm starting to slowly see it now come up. And then, but in those times, it's almost like my mind and my inner critic became my worst enemy. And I was literally having a war every single day with myself in my head, because I'm like, what's going on? This is not me. I was almost like having an out of body experience, looking at myself going, why am I like this? Why am I getting anxiety? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I so down? Like, what the heck? I never used to be like this. And of course, when you're also feeling like that, you're not really the best people magnet, because people are attracted to high vibe people that are like living the best life and feeling good and joyous, and say, hey, you can do it too. And I did not feel authentic to say that when I was feeling like that. And it played on every little belief that I had, that I felt like I totally overcame, which was my my money blueprint that I know you speak of all the time, and how you sort of grow up with, sort of what's your, what do you call it? It's like the temperature.
Yeah, the thermostat.
The thermostat, yeah. Thermostat. And just when I thought, no, I'm like completely changing the story for my family, I was back into that space of, and other things had happened. I realized, my values and my priorities. When you're going through tough times, you really, really find out who your true friends are too, let me tell you. So I almost went through some breakups of that sort as well, where I had to kind of like break away from certain people, and I realized other things, and that also put me in a state of like, I can't believe it's happening. And but that was the best thing to happen too, because I really feel like there's seasons, and there's some people in it, and then some seasons and some people aren't in it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that well, and for those listening, as someone who studies, business and success, and whether it's a corporate business or an entrepreneur's life, but we understand, and I know that in 12 months from now, as we look back and talk about this one more time with you, that this season of you discovering that deeper part of yourself, which I think every entrepreneur is going to face at some point. We all do. And I remember when I've gone through that, and then sort of really listening to those, because when everything's great, we don't always hear what we're really thinking. Right. And then suddenly, when you're in the heat, when you're in the fire, suddenly, those things will come up. And that's what you said. A lot of people would have walked away. A lot of people would quit. But
Yeah.
then remembering that residual income and remembering a global business where you can, because the income's down, which means, there's more limitations on what you can financially do, but knowing and having tasted that and then comparing it back to that 2 screens where you're an admin and you're earning $35,000 or $40,000 a year sitting in a chair for 8 hours with no hope of anything new. But I want to get back to what have you done? So as you started to become more and more aware that you were fighting yourself every single day, and that your thoughts were taken over, the negative little voice in our head was sort of starting to control and win the day. And you were actually you were saying that the way you were starting your day was kind of ruining your day. Before you even got going, you were already talking yourself out of it. So you weren't naturally attracting, and you weren't believing, because belief is such a big important, that you could do it and that you could bring people in to do it. What have you done over these last few months where you've sort of started to really recreate the story, and what habits are you having now, and what did you find is your new priority? Because I think the one thing you discovered was that that you are the priority, and maybe you weren't putting yourself in that boat early in the day, right?
Yeah. It's so funny because somewhere along there, the journey, I actually sort of asked for help, and the person I asked for help said, no, I'm focusing on this stuff, and I'm focusing on this other part of the business. And it sort of this in the same conversation, they said, well, you should be grateful for what's, this is residual income, you should be grateful. And when you're in that space of feeling so low, that's probably the worst thing you can tell someone, of giving them that advice in that moment. Right. But then later, when I calm myself down, I realized that actually taught me so much, because then I went like, okay, when you start, let's say, doing affirmations, and you just go straight for the opposite, like, I feel beautiful and worthy in this, but really you don't. I felt like I can't do that. So I literally had to start so slow to go, even with gratitudes, like, I am grateful I do have a roof over my head. I am grateful I ate today. So I had to start really slowly with things like affirmations, with things like, I was already a huge fan of manifesting and law of attraction, but I really went down to, but how do you actually do it? So I researched Joe Dispenza, and I love that he mixes the spiritual with the science, and it's all kind of proven now, and how it all works, and quantum physics. So I realized that the most important part was how I sat within my energy, and how I felt about things, and what my beliefs were really going to track the next thing, were really going to help me feel better in the next moment. And I learned that before starting the day or anything like that, I need to put myself into the space and into the Mara that I will become in 5 years, where I go, I have this going on for me, and this, and there's abundance, and there's all of the things that I imagine myself to be and to have. And so now that's how I start my day. But yeah, it had to go really slowly. I didn't just go like, yeah, I've got this. It was like, in my head, I was saying things like, every day I'm getting better and better at lifting my spirits up. Every day I'm learning more and more about how to, well, not really control my mind, but have a little bit more patience with myself,
compassion,
and control my thoughts.
Yeah.
Every day I'm getting it. So it was almost like, I learned my own way to do affirmations, where I could kind of trick my brain. And I had to really sit down, and I was like so triggered by it, but I was like, I can't believe I have to do this and get myself in a good mood, when everyone knew me as the most positive, bubbliest person. And here I am fighting for myself to get my happy thoughts back. But this is why it was such a long, in my head, it's already felt like such a long process. And then I had to get set some really tough boundaries for myself, because I realized that if I did wake up and just tune into my emails and phone and everything else, it just immediately gave me the reality that right now I'm not 100% happy with. So that's why I start my day with, the person that has all of those things is all of those things. And is in this, space. So then I know that when then I start my day, this is just a stepping stone of what I'm going through today to where I'm going to
Yeah,
be.
and to give clarity to that, which why I think this is so important, because so many people, again, the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. So many people have that phone right by the bed. And if they are in a sort of, and may not be where you were, where it's all the way down. I mean, you kind of hit bottom a little bit, which again, I'm being someone who loves you, I'm so glad you did. I know it sounds terrible, but I just know in 12 months,
oh, I'm glad too.
4 years, just who you are, who you become when you go through adversity. And when you navigate adversity, there's going to be a change in you that is monumental. I just know. But a lot of people, they may just be flat. Their life is just blah. But when you get in the habit of picking that phone up and immediately going into the same place on the same day, it's like you're continually sort of beating that darker side, right? So you said that you've set up some boundaries now with how you treat yourself. Would you lead us through that then? Just sort of give us, what are the things that are really working for you on a daily basis that somebody who else is maybe navigating some tougher times or wanting to go through a transition, they realize what they're doing isn't working, and they're in the sort of the habit of being hard on themselves or having these negative conversations in their head or fighting their own inner demons on a constant basis, but not really moving forward in their life. What are some of the things that you're doing right now that are really working for you?
So yeah, man, and that's just like, even just chatting to you now, I'm just, and again, it's like I'm ever learning. I feel like I'm always improving now. Like every day I'm like, I'm learning something new. But having dealt with the adversity got me to have some really tough conversations with myself. So I'm not really against being tough on yourself. I believe that that's sort of like healthy at times, especially when you want to create those boundaries or go, hey, Mara, we're going to chat about this. Like, if you really want that body, you're going to have to like prep your meals. You're going to have to get organized. So I still believe there's certain things that it's good to be tough with yourself about and have the real conversations, but not in a negative way, like putting myself down anymore. So like I said, I started with some really easing into some affirmations, which I believe they only work if you're not going fully opposite on the spectrum of where you're at, because then I believe like you're looking in the mirror and you don't believe a thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think starting small, like every day I'm getting better. Like today I'm feeling worthier than I felt yesterday. I'm becoming more patient with myself in understanding that it might take a little while. I've got this, babe. Like I just have to trust the process. Like, and just having the conversation.
By the way, that's so astute of you, because I think, again, doing this for as long as I have, that's why sometimes, people set these goals that they already know subconsciously they'll never reach. And that's why we see this thing on January where so many people, I never set goals in January. I just don't, I don't think in 12-month spans. I don't understand this. The clock doesn't change for me because it's January 1st, because I don't think in years. I think in seasons. And like you're going through a season, and whether your season spills over to February, and February is the time you start, then that's just your next season. And that's what you were through. You were in a season of reflection, and now you're in a season of, right? And that reflection sometimes wasn't very positive, but certainly you're in a season now of incremental, small, tiny, daily. And I think what's the word I'm looking for is awareness. Is that being really aware of how you're able to gently grow yourself again without this kind of weird and wacky, hyped kind of thing where subconsciously you're saying, yeah, you're never going to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of the tough questions I asked myself were things like, is what I'm feeling right now attracting good things into my life, abundant things into my life? Like, is where I'm thinking and are my intentions when I speak to people saying, hey, 1, 2, and 3. And so I realized that, wow, like I have a huge responsibility to make sure that I fill that cup up right in the morning. So when I do start my day, when I go on a Facebook Live, Instagram stories, that not only am I authentic, but I can give from a full cup. And people, I've read somewhere that, and energy is made before you even touch or something like that. And I was like, that is so true. People can feel your energy. I know I feel it. If like something's not right, I've got a like gut feeling about it. And I thought, am I showing up in a way where people go like, I trust you, Mara, and I want to have a chat with you.
And Mara, just to interrupt, sorry, but
yeah.
if we understand how the subconscious mind works and the conscious, right? I mean, the subconscious mind processes almost 4 billion bits of information every second. So what happens is you don't have to say a word. When you walk up to me, not what I'm consciously aware of, and that's why we get the heebie-jeebies sometimes. When sometimes we meet someone, we're not sure why we dislike them. That's why I always trust kids. If a kid doesn't feel good around an adult, there's something that kid's feeling that is so real. Like animals will suddenly start to growl at someone, and yet it's not growling at anybody else, because there's this thing that we emit that we're unaware of that will subconsciously impact people around us. So what I love about your awareness, which I think is really, I find it so fascinating, and I think
I'm proud of myself too. Don't worry, David.
Yeah, but you're going to write about this one day, is that you're understanding that, even what's going on deep inside of you is so important that you don't want to play the artificial, fake, inauthentic game, because you know that what's really happening, people are still feeling. And you can put the fake mask on as much as you want, but the world that you want to create, Mara, that I know about you, isn't authentic and truly transparent. That's why you can talk about it. So a lot of people wouldn't want to.
And I started talking about it. That was the thing I was going to say about too. Like I actually started to explain how I felt and how, like, online, and I would never open up about that, because I grew up with, you're just telling people you're good at this and this and this. I always say to people, I'm like, I can't believe when I first moved here that people would say I'm not good at maths, because I was really not good at maths. But I would have never admitted that, because back home in Romania, you don't say that you're not good at something. You just shut up, or you just say, I do all right. Like you would never admit. And so I thought, oh man, that's also an affirmation. And then now all of a sudden I'm becoming aware of, like, I started saying things like, oh, well, I'm not very good at numbers. Oh, well, I get anxiety when I look at the back office numbers. Well, guess what? Like, you have to run a business. I have to look at the numbers. So I realized that, the things that we tell ourselves are so powerful. Even things like, it's so easy to say, I'm not very good at talking, I'm not very good at social media. And I'm like, that's not going to be a problem, because now when we have conversation with people, I'm like, wow, isn't it crazy how we're on this, spinning wheel of saying all these things that are creating constantly our reality, constantly our stories. And it's very hard. So I have now more than ever so much empathy for people that are going through those tough times, that are going through kind of, a bit of depression, that are going through the negative thoughts, because I've been there. And if I wouldn't have been through it, and sometimes it still creeps in a little bit, I would not know how to help someone. So I always say, I've learned that sometimes, the stuff that you go through almost becomes part of your purpose to help someone else overcome.
That is, I used to teach a program called Life Directions, where people would come in, and over 4 days, we would help them find a path for their life. And it was always in alignment with the journey, always in alignment with the pain. That's why people who are abused often end up working with abused children. It was, you're drawn to helping in the arena where you hurt. What I just want to recap for a second here is a couple of things, is that, you started quite small. Well, first of all, you started with awareness. You became aware, and it took a while for you to sort of become aware of how the thoughts had changed in your mind, but you weren't initially aware that they changed. You kind of slowly slipped into a pattern of more negative thinking, and it was based on external reality. External reality is, and this is what we don't know. We don't know, if we went back in time and I had a camera on you, what we don't know is whether the external experience was creating your internal thought process, which was then creating more of the external experience, because the company or other people around you were going through harder times. Yeah. Sometimes we jump in the pit with them. We don't even know what creates it, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. What happened though is you kind of got into this pit that you'd never been in your entire life. I don't believe you'd ever been in there, right? You would
No,
never,
this
never,
was, yeah, real bad.
real bad, right? And then over time, as you become more and more aware of it, you started to realize that it was really happening inside of you. And what was happening inside of you was manifesting even on a greater way. And the more it was happening inside of you, the more you saw your income drop, the more you saw people walking away, the more relationships were being strained. It was like, holy shit, the world is caving in on Mara, the sparkle, Mara, the magnificent, Mara, the ever happy. And
Yeah.
then you started to realize that, hey, hold on a sec, as you became more aware, you didn't quit. You realized that you had to, and what I love, I'm just trying to remind people what you said, and remind me if I've missed something, is that you started to see the Mara in 5 years from today. You went back into saying, I'm not going to, yeah, it's almost felt like you had to rebuild from the beginning, but it was like, who's the Mara 5 years from today? And started to think and behave and have that vision. So you had a vision of you, how you
A vision. And for me, what really came up and it really triggered me, but it was like, well, the Mara in 5 years, what's her work ethic? How does she wake up? How does she speak with people? What's her posture like? What's her energy like? Who does she give her time with? Who are her friends? I went real deep because I realized that I had to look at all of the areas of my life, but most importantly is not only just, is my energy right now attracting good stuff, but is like, is my work right now smart? Am I doing smart work or am I wasting time? Am I like, where is this all? It's hard. It's so hard when you go through it. It's so hard to, and if anyone's watching and feeling that, it is hard. It sucks because this is all like looking in the mirror and going, shit, I could be doing more. Because really that was my thing. Like, am I really doing my best, or am I just telling myself that I'm working really hard? And yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. But so a couple of things that you did, which I love, is this slow and more gentle and more compassionate, because you said that you're more compassionate with others, but I believe you're actually more compassionate with yourself.
With myself.
And because you're more compassionate with others. And I think that, I always say that, people relate more to our pain than they do to our success. I mean, if you're always the person that's succeeding, it's very hard to get people to relate to that. But you started to really incrementally and really listening to yourself and understanding that Mara is going to wake up each day, and each day is a different journey, but you're going to have some discipline or some boundaries around what you do, knowing that if you do the right things and you will continue to be aware and you manage where you spend your time, who you spend your time with, how you give your time. But then you started to do something else, which I love, is you started to really be more transparent for the first time in your life against your culture, against what the medium, like in social media, so many people project what's happy and good, or they go the other way where it's all dark and so. But for you to start to tell the truth allowed I think the relationship with you and real people to suddenly start to come together in a new way. Is that right?
Yep. And I will say one more thing. There was lots and lots and lots of crying. So I'm grateful I had a man to rely on to keep me, like, so grateful for that. Let me tell you, like, I never knew being with the right person could help you grow so much and help you ease out of that as well. So I had someone to hold space for me as well to get through this. And I'm so grateful for that. I couldn't imagine going through all of that by myself. Like, that would have been even harder. So I did have some help.
Some people listening are maybe thinking, oh, well, I don't have somebody. But if you didn't, I just want to talk to that person who maybe doesn't have that relationship right now, is, the idea that, that doesn't necessarily always have to be your partner. It can be a family member, right?
I learned from that is, I was surrounded by a lot of yes people, as in they would just go, oh yeah, okay. Like, they would either just agree with me or they would be like crying my shoulder, but there was nothing to get me like, okay, Mara, but let's get this going. Come on. I know it's inside of you. So I had just people that sort of the yes people. And I realized that if you want to grow, and it's not the easiest thing, you want to have some people around you that are going to help you do that. And those people may not tell you the things that you necessarily want to hear all the time, but they're actually genuinely there to help you and that sort of thing. So although my partner actually did that for me, and that was like, at times it really triggered me. It was very hard, but it came with so much love. So if you are single in a space where you're going through this by yourself, I would say, do you have a lot of yes people around you that maybe aren't helping either? Or, and are you ready to surround yourself with some people that will you can have some real raw conversations that can help you go from point A to B, even if that it can be painful, or, you may cry, or it may take you a week or a month or a year, but they're there to like hold you through that rather than just agree. And I don't know, it's one of those things everyone does.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is such good wisdom, because I think, authenticity is such a, like you say, what I love about this, when I think about this show later, I think about the personal responsibility for, our inner world creating our outer world. And that so often we want yes people around because it validates. Yeah. And it doesn't always validate the truth. What it validates, it's like, that's why so many people are fake, and they have these masks, right? And I think one of the ways to tell, whether you're around someone who's that yes person, or around someone who is it whether you're wearing a mask. So if you're wearing a mask in order to be around someone, so you've got your fakie on, they're probably fake as well. So whoever you're around where you can be yourself and be raw. And if you don't have that, I really urge you to start showing up without your mask and let people see the real you, which Mara, I think, this has been the astounding part. And I think about you as you travel into motherhood. I think that you're, having gone through this.
Manifesting anything yet?
Yeah. But as you go through this, what a great journey for you as a mother, because your kids are always going to go through adversity, and understanding that journey and being able to really relate to that and being able to live in a world without masks. I'm not saying you never wear it, but I think your masks have definitely been put in the closet, right?
Yeah, and when I realized that they were really going in the rubbish, not in the closet, because that bin needs to be taken out to the rubbish pile. And for me, was sending a few tough messages to a few people that I have allowed to speak to me in a certain way. And for the first time ever, I sent beautiful, respecting, beautiful messages, but they were with a strong intention and they were very clear. And from the minute I expressed that, the people, and some of them didn't respond well at all, and they're not in my life anymore. And the ones that did were like, thanks so much for letting me know. I didn't know I was doing that, and I'm so sorry. And then that was it. The subject was closed. We moved on, and we have the best relationships.
Right. Well, you have an authentic relationship. I mean, once you can tell the truth to someone and they handle the truth. And I love the idea that you do. I found that,
I never used to do that. I was too scared of, would I offend them? Would I say the wrong thing?
Well, go back to your early part of your story. 15 years of age, you arrive in Australia. It's complete in contrast to everything that you had in your head. And you put the smile on, and you went to school. You never complained. So subconsciously, you were learning how to accept. And so we create our own reality. I got goosebumps even saying that to you.
Yeah,
but
I did.
Right? I kind of like when I listen to stories, I can hear the connection now. And here you are going back to really when you were 15 and telling a truth to people that you haven't been able to tell because you were conditioned not to tell. And you even said about your culture is we don't tell the truth. We don't say we can't or we're bad at it. We're not allowed. That's just culturally not acceptable.
We're very proud people.
Yeah.
So, and that's sometimes a good thing, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah, well, I mean, every culture, what I love about every culture, and I'm really excited about discovering yours more deeply, is every culture has that. Every country, Australia, New Zealand, England, wherever we're talking, America, Canada, Romania, is there's that duality. But we have the duality as humans. You have the duality, and now you've discovered your duality, which is the beautiful part. You've discovered you at your greatest and most, vibrant, and you've discovered you at your lowest and at your, the hardest place you've ever been. And now with that duality, imagine you've got the understanding of both, which I think is so beautiful. So I want to hand this over to you because we're actually at the end of time here, which is crazy. We'll have to have you back. I love conversations that go so fast. I feel like we've been talking for like a minute.
I know.
But
I just looked at the time. I can't believe it.
I know, it's an hour.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what's a message you want to leave to people right now. What's the sort of the thing? And I remember there's people who, I think everyone's going to relate to your story. And if they're not relating to your story in any way, I don't know if they've got a pulse or not.
Oh,
They should probably check their pulse. No, I'm just saying that if you haven't traveled through this place of truth and honesty and responsibility, then probably it's coming. You know, so if you haven't been there yet and you don't relate to her, you better listen, because I don't know any human being on the planet that isn't going to travel this road. And it may not look like Mara, but you're going to feel exactly as she felt last year.
Yeah. Well, first of all, please subscribe to David Wood's channel, The Extra Mile. Please watch all of his episodes. They're amazing. Please comment on his
I didn't tell him to do this.
and Instagram. Okay, you guys can learn so much just from this one show. Like, I dare you to watch just 3 episodes and see how good it is to feed your brain some epic information that's going to leave you feeling so much better than turning on the TV. So that's number 1. And no, you didn't ask me to do that. And 2, oh man, what can I say? You know, life is so juicy, and it's just filled with so much adventure and you know, people that come and go and things that happen. And I think the more we realize that we are really so much powerful and stronger than we think, really in here, but also in here. And I feel like when we can mix some of these thoughts that can be liberating, that can really offer us more hope, and knowing that everything is working out and that there really can be other ways of living life and opportunities out there, if you really open up your heart, I believe that that's when certain people show up in your life. And my biggest thing right now is, who are you surrounding yourself with that is helping you become more of what's in here. And I feel like environment is so powerful and so amazing. I went through this growth and journey, such a painful time, like in a way by myself, because I didn't want to burden someone with what I was going through. And in a way I regret I didn't really talk to someone, or maybe speak to a sisterhood or a group of people that would have been like, I'm going through the same stuff. And I'm realizing now that a lot of people are going through the same stuff as I'm opening up to it on all the platforms and stuff like that. But I guess, yeah, if you're not ready, or if you're not, taking care of some of the adversity that you may be dealing with right now, it's definite, like the universe is going to take care of it for you. And if you leave it too late, yes, it may be a little bit more uncomfortable and painful. But yeah, I think environment is key. And just know that within you have the power to always change your mood, change how you feel, change your thoughts. It may take a bit of work, but you have that. It's inside of you, that goodness, that spirit. I think we all have it. I believe everyone inside is really good and has good intentions. And I think my life now is just that discovery of going, what more is in there that I can gift and share with people from a space where that's very authentic, because I don't want to show up and let me tell you how you should live your life. No, but just go, hey, I learned this week and it really sucked, but I'm sure I'm going to be grateful about it in a year. Yeah. So I don't know what to say. I'm 31. I'm still living life.
You said so much, and I think it's beautiful. And I thank you. And I want to remind everyone with the show that, this is about those small incremental steps. The reason I call it my extra mile is to be able to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. and to sort of learn lessons through other people's experiences. And so, Mara, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for your gift and for your transparency, your honesty, your authenticity around this. It's a toughie. It's, you know, I mean, a lot of people, you know, I think more people relate to what you've gone through this year than can relate to so much of the success that people experience. But I want to remind everyone, it's those small daily actions. And Mara gave you so many little things that she's doing on a daily basis and really creating those boundaries around her personal self, and, you know, being able to make sure that she fills her cup before she gives so much to other people, and being more aware of, you know, the conversations she's having and the environment she's having. And now the honesty and the transparency that she's created with people. And some people have left her because they weren't real anyway, and others have become closer because the truth was spoken in an honest and an open way, and now she has these real relationships that she can go to the next level with. So thank you, Mara, and definitely everyone will definitely see you. Mara, let's blow you a kiss first.
Thank you, and grateful you exist, David. Thank you.
And we'll definitely see you all on the other side. Thank you, Mara.